I'm Courtney McBath, the CEO of the Calvary Leadership Network, and today I'm answering the question, what is leadership? I'm Courtney McBath, and today I want to talk to you about a very important question. The question is, what is leadership? Now, in this day of volatility where we see ups and downs in leadership, we see lies and scandal, we see people who seem to be leaders, but suddenly you think, I don't really want to follow that. We really want to understand what leadership really is. And I want to start with just talking about what other people have said about leadership. Martin Luther King said that a true leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. In other words, a real leader doesn't find out what everybody likes and then lead that way, but a real leader finds out what's right and then leads people into what is right. He also said that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? So anytime Dr. King talked about leadership, he always spoke about it in the context of doing what is right and doing what is right for others. Now, my mentor, John Maxwell, says in the second law of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership is that leadership is simply influence. Matter of fact, he teaches on the law of influence. The true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And so when you start to think about what Dr. Maxwell and Dr. King have said about leadership, number one, that leadership is influence. That secondly, that leadership is molding healthy consensus, that leadership is adding value to others. Because remember Dr. King's question, the question of all questions is, what are you doing to help others? And if we think about this in the context of what Jesus said about leadership, when he said that the one who will lead you must first be servant of all, then he and Dr. King and Dr. Maxwell all lift up this idea of servant leadership. And so if we ask the question, what is leadership? Then I want to start with leadership is influence. And I want to ask you, what are you doing with the influence that you've been given? Now, see, most people will say, well, I'm not a leader because I don't have a title. I'm not a leader because I'm not a this. I'm not a leader because I don't have this education. But when you boil it all down and leadership is influence, then that means everyone is a leader because everyone has influence. And so there is an opportunity for you to lead because you've been given an influence that enables you to do just that. The question then is not, do you have influence or are you a leader? The question is then, what are you doing with the influence that you've been given? Because the question, what is leadership, is not an important question until you put yourself into the question. What is leadership to you? What is leadership for me? What should our leadership look like? And it begins with the simple acknowledgement that you've been given a certain level of influence and you've got to use that in this life to the very best of your ability to begin to mold healthy consensus. What do I mean by that? I mean that you begin to inspire shared vision. Kouzes and Posner, in their classic book, The Leadership Challenge, they mention 5 things that all exemplary leaders always have. And one of those 5 things is the ability to inspire a shared vision. And so when Dr. King talks about molding consensus, he's talking about what it takes to bring people together around an issue, around a movement that then is good and healthy for the society. And so the question is not only are you understanding that you have influence, but now what are you doing with this influence to make sure that you are moving your sphere, your small group, your business, your church, the folk that are around you, your family, what are you doing to move them into something that is healthy? And then finally, when we talk about leadership, yes, it's influence, and you have it. That makes you a leader. Leader is molding healthy consensus. That means bringing people together around a shared vision. And we'll talk in a later discussion about how you develop that vision, that you bring people around that vision. But today I want to kind of close out with this thought. Leadership is then adding value to others, using your influence so that others are blessed. I've defined leadership this way. Leadership is the successful use of your influence for the good of others. Leadership is the successful use of your influence for the good of others. And so in today's conversation, I want you to begin thinking, what are you doing with your influence that's changing the lives of others? What are you adding to others? How are you adding value to others? How are you intentionally every day adding value to lives by taking the influence that you have, molding healthy consensus, in other words, bringing people around a shared positive vision and moving them in the right direction? Aubrey Malphurs once said that a Christian leader is a servant with the credibility and the capabilities to influence people in a particular context to pursue their God-given direction. That'll be a great place for us to start next time. But for today, I want you to begin to ask and answer the question, what is leadership? It's influence. It's an inspired, shared vision. It's adding value to other people. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Courtney McBath. I'm so glad that you've shared these few moments with me. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, I want you to like and subscribe, and I want you to click that link so that we can stay in touch with you. God bless you, friend.